Welcome to the G-Spot.
Five, four, three, two, one.
Hello everybody and welcome to Dynamic GT League's G-Spot, where Ray will tell us in a minute what we're going to do, but it's the last one of the current championship. It's G30. I can't wait until we get to 69, if we get that far, but yeah, it's the G-Spot. Ray's with me. What you got to say, Ray?
Hello, and welcome to the G-Spot. That's where we look at the weird and wonderful things that happen within the race, and also any reports and any reports for the stewards and any mishaps that we see or reported, things that people want more educational.
Yep. Things that people may want clarifying. Yeah.
Educational information on or clarification.
Or
if MD's bending the rules.
It's like a ruler, you can bend it so far and eventually it'll break. Even the unbreakable ones, or the smash proof ones. Also, it's where we can have a look at great driving as well, if people let us know to have a look at it. So first off, Ray.
What a move.
Yeah, exactly. What a move. Which Formula One have started fucking stealing our fucking sayings. I don't know how many times in the practice sessions and the test sessions and in the race where the F1 commentators started giving it, what a move. So yeah, we've been saying it for a while. But anyway.
We'll have to trademark that.
Absolutely.
But the funny thing is, we're going to have to trademark it back to one of our drivers.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Nah, we'll just leave it.
Yeah.
F1 can have that one.
Yeah, they can have it. Seeing as Ant Davidson does such a good impression of Crofty, they can have it. Okay, it's going to be the last G-Spot for a couple of weeks because obviously the championship is over. The VSC has been finished. Steve F1 has won the championship. Well done. Been a great season. Some brilliant driving. But yeah, we are going to be taking a 2-week break. Which, Ray?
Yes?
I'm wondering if it's going to make our Fridays a little less entertaining.
What do you mean less entertaining?
Well, we're not going to have any commentary to do or any G-Spot to do, are we?
I don't know. We're not able to get the jokes in.
Yeah, true. But it gives me 3 weeks to save them up.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah, baby. So, yeah, I suppose really we should sort of crack on here. But actually saying it, I mentioned crack on. I cracked a bone in my hand. Do you know how many bones there are in your hand?
Nope.
27. There's 28 when you're lonely.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And that, we should move on.
Okay, we've got a few things to have a look at here, folks. So bear with us as we crack into these in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. G1, race 9. It's in the bag. Now, this is SGP. No, sorry, this is Twilight leading the race. This was the spin that he had. Comfortably leading, great pace, gets out wide, has a spin. It was in the bag. It's not anymore. Camera view isn't great there. But let's have a look. He literally just laps of concentration and spins it around, spinning around. I genuinely don't think there's anything he could have done here. We're going to see it from Steve F1's view now. He comes around the corner. He probably wouldn't have even seen Twilight spinning until this point, and there isn't really anywhere Twilight can go, or as Steve F1 can go, really. We'll see it from Demon R's view. And, I mean, Demon R does sort of bang the brakes on. Very, very lucky But yeah, for Steve, I want to do this bit in slow motion because Twilight's car is still spinning. There is not a point where Twilight's car is stationary, so he is still having his crash at this time. And although his car is rolling across the track, I would still class it as he's still having his crash. And
I think if he slammed on the brakes there, it'd be a bigger pile up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, one of the things that I wanted to sort of highlight there was the fact that Twilight's car was never stationary. If it was stationary and then moved, that's where we'd say you shouldn't move. Because once you've got stationary, if he crashes there and becomes stationary, then he should stay stationary and let everybody go wherever they're going to go. But his car is continually in motion. He's still crashing. And so, yeah, I don't put any blame on Twilight for that. And, I mean, Steve F1, he doesn't blame Twilight either. As far as I know, he feels sorry for him because he was on for a great chance of winning the race.
Yeah, I give him credit for not slamming on the brakes and letting the car roll, because if he had slammed on the brakes, he would have been right in the racing line, and all the cars behind him would have just enough ploughed into him.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely one of those situations where a disaster for Twilight. But I know he would have been kicking himself. But Steve F1 was laughing about it at the time, because it is just one of those crashes where, you know what, that's racing, shit happens sometimes. And Steve F1 realised there was fuck all he could do, and there was nothing Twilight could do. So when the victim of your crash is laughing about it, don't eat yourself too hard about it. Okay. Shall we move on, since we've got a lot to get through?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next one in 3, 2, 1, let's go. G2, race 9. Reality isn't what we perceive to be true. It's what is true. I don't know what that means. Okay, so let's have a look. Oh yes, this is Demon R. Oh, and we saw this on the race footage, didn't we? Demon R and Jimmy getting together. Now, at the time that this happened, Jimmy did apologise. And I said to Jimmy, don't worry about it, just keep going. So we look here, SGP got wide, Demon R goes round the outside. There's a little bit of contact between the two. Now, at the time, I wasn't sure exactly what had happened, but there was a doubt in my mind as to whether Jimmy was at fault. So I just said to him, you just keep going. And having looked at this footage, I think I should give Jimmy an apology. Apologies, Jimmy. Because when we look at this in slow motion, you'll see that I turn in on him. So SGP got up high, a bit wide, into the wall. Jimmy did well to spot that I'd got there, to be honest. But this is where Jimmy started turning a bit towards the corner, but you're going to see me come sweeping across into Jimmy's path. Now, for me, looking at that, I've turned in on Jimmy. Jimmy's done nothing wrong there. I've ended up off the track. Now, at the time, you actually get a better view of it from SGP here. So that's him tagging the wall. And yeah, so I said, Jimmy's done well to realise that he's past SGP. But look at this, you'll see me just sweep across the track. Now, I've not necessarily just gone for trying to take the apex, but it's definitely me moving into Jimmy. There's no doubt about that. And as I said, at the time, I had some doubt in my mind as to what had happened, and the reason for that, I don't know if you've had it, Ray, but the reason for it was into that corner, when you're kind of side by side or you're not sure who's around, and you have a look at your radar, and then you have maybe a second look at your radar. And I was more looking at my radar than where my car was going. So for me, there was a kind of a blackout moment where I had no idea what had actually happened because I was looking at the radar and not really looking at where I was going. So I didn't know what had happened. But yeah, I think now the title makes sense in that Jimmy thought he'd hit me off or thought he might have done. I didn't know. And what we perceive to be reality isn't true. It's what is true is reality.
Okay.
Don't you want to add anything to that?
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
right.
you've explained it well.
Okay, fair enough. Been doing a bit of farming simulator recently, and every morning I walk my cow. I take my cow for a long walk in the vineyard.
Okay.
Yep. I heard it through the grapevine.
Did it? When's she gonna be yours?
Never. Okay, shall we move on? Right, in 3, 2, 1, let's go. G3, race 9, it's in the back. Oh, boobies. Ooh. Okay, so this is SGP leading the race, and this is this is what happened. Now it doesn't look like much, and there's only the one video clip of it, but two things happened here really. Which one is about 5 minutes before SGP had this moment. His wife Claire happened to walk into the room, saw that he was leading the race, and went, "You're doing well." So she actually she cursed him. But I will let that go. Steve might not, but we will. But what happened heading into turn 1 was, I believe I don't think his TV turned off. I think his TV struggled being on HDR and reverted to being just on HD, and while it does that, it goes black screen, so SGP couldn't see, and he's just hit the brakes and turned around the corner and lost the lead. Now the reason it was our boobies is because quite often while Steve's racing, Claire will pop her baps out and put him off a bit.
Yeah, that's why I laughed, because we heard the comment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was one during the race. Oh, boobies. So there we go. The thing is, I'm scared of boobies. I'm also scared of elevators, but thankfully there's steps you can take.
Okay.
Should we move on?
Yeah.
Okay. In 3, 2, 1, let's go. G4, race 9, it's in the ball bag. Oh, okay, is it? Oh, is it? Is it? Oh, now this, okay, so this is final lap. So this was SRI's dive bomb, as we called it. But to be fair, it wasn't a dive bomb at all, was it, Ray?
I don't know, I wasn't sure.
I genuinely think not. I mean, looking at it, you're in fair range. It's a fair attempt at making the move. And I didn't go wide. Well, no, hang on. I haven't gone wide there. I have driven over there. So there's a couple of things to mention. I don't have my radar on at this point. I had my fuel gauge on. So I turned into the corner with zero knowledge that Ray may or may not have been there. So it was my fault turning in on Ray. So at the next corner, at the left, I have chosen to go wide and let Ray through. There's two reasons for that. One is I've turned in on him at the previous corner. I didn't know by how much, how bad, or anything like that. But also, I knew I was going to be out of fuel in a couple of corners, and I didn't want to get in the way of Ray potentially winning the race. So there you go. Yeah, that's that.
But then Ray backs off in the bank
Yeah.
until you say you're fuel.
Yeah.
You see, I didn't know if it was. I was unsure. So,
Yeah.
although
I think
you gave me the position, I was like, I know what there was. I had wrong. I should be given the position. So it was hard to figure out at that moment in time. So
yeah. Well, I can fully understand that from your perspective, because when you look at the footage, and for anyone that may want to look at it again, feel free. Some may say that you've come in a little bit late. I wouldn't say that you have. I'd say you're within fair range to attempt an overtake. I should have been aware that you possibly could have gone for it, which means that I should have either covered that inside or been prepared for you to possibly be there. And the fact that it is a tiny little bit of like your front corner on my rear corner, I can understand from your perspective why you might think, oh, was I too late in there? But that's where, I mean, I knew 100% that was my fault at the time, because I knew I had, not only had I not looked behind me at where you were, I didn't have the tool on to let me know where you were. So that was all on me. But I fully understand why in your position you might think, oh shit, was it too late? Was that my fault? Oh, I don't know. But yeah, that's the way racing goes. But that's the situation there, though, where I would say that's two people that are trying to do the right thing. So for you, it wouldn't have mattered. Like, the win isn't what you was thinking about. What you was thinking about was, shit, was that a fair overtake? Was I in the wrong? Whereas, like, I mean, I have done it in the past at Laguna Seca on Steve F1, where the red mist came down and I went, I'm going for the overtake. Oh shit, that may have been a bit unfair. Fuck it, I'm winning the race. And it's not how I should have thought at that time. And I suppose that's where we've said to the drivers before, it's like, we want our first thoughts to be give room, give space, and all that kind of stuff, because that's what makes for the better racing. And when you've got when we've got people having that mindset of, oh crap, was that fair or not? I don't know, or maybe I should wait for them. Being able to have the conversation helps. So at the time where you're thinking, oh shit, I don't know, but we're able to have a conversation, and I'm able to say, no, it's fine, keep going, mate, it was my fault or whatever. That's what helps.
Yeah.
A bit like with, I mean, if you watch the Bahrain Grand Prix, I hope others saw this. Alonso coming through the field, right, did not at any point squeeze another driver off track. He gave each driver room at the edge of the track, and what resulted was quality racing to watch. Rather than just, oh yeah, I'm coming up here and I'm going to push you off the track, because it's not as good. Anything you'd like to add about your dive bomb there, then, Ray?
No, like you said, that we were in that moment and both trying to do the right thing of what we thought at the time, and from each other's perspective. And I wasn't on mic, I've started just to cut my mic off.
Yeah.
Because it's either I'm taking my hand off the wheel to press the unmute button and put it back on mute, and sometimes I lose my concentration, so I'm like, I'll just leave my... As soon as I get in the lobby, my mic's on mute until the end of the race.
Yeah. The thing is as well, I mean, with you having kids and I mean, hang on, that sounds bad. Because you do have children, that still sounds bad. You have children, congratulations. Kids can sometimes be noisy in the background. You also don't want your noisy children to affect other people at times.
Yeah. That's there as well.
Yeah. Or at least that's what I tell everybody. Okay, shall we move on to the next one?
Yeah, and you're ginger.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm breezing past that, thank you. If we move on to the next one in 3, 2, 1, let's go. G5, corners, cuts to the extreme or just mistakes? Okay, I'm going to go for a bit of footage here. So this is me, Demon R, behind Steve F1, closing in on him. Did you see what happened there? Well, let's have a look. This is what happened here. So I'm following Steve F1 and whoa! Yeah, let's have a look at this, shall we? So as we zoom in, you'll notice that I may be a little bit too close to the wall here. So let's have a look on the camera angle, shall we? I think I may be... I think I might be just a little bit beyond track limits. So much so that there's space for...
Another car?
A cameraman, at least, to go down the side of the car. Yeah, that is way too far off track. Now, let's have a look at what happens following this. You'll see that I am closing in a little bit on Steve F1, But bear in mind, this is the moment as well where Steve F1 has realised, shit, fuel. But look at what happens here. Although the gap has closed a little bit, I'm making zero attempt to make an overtake. I also give Steve F1 a bump draft, and then you'll see on the exit of this corner, Steve F1 is opened the gap back up. So there has been no advantage gained, okay? So this is what we would want people to sort of do if they do happen to cut the corner. Now, what we would then do is say, well, if they cut the corner, well, what about the lap before or the lap after? Oh, well, that's fine. Okay, so let's check the lap before and see what line it took through that corner, because if before and after was the same, then we've got a potentially bit of an issue. So this is the lap before. No, that's fine, according to our current rules. Right, let's go and find a random lap, and we'll see what line Demon Eye is taking through the corner on this occasion. Because what I'd be looking at here is, have we seen what is his racing line, or was it a one-off fuck up? Okay, he's nowhere near cutting the corner on that one. Right, let's go and find another random lap. Now, this is what I would do if I was stewarding someone been reported for cutting corners, or if it had been asked for us to look at. That's fine. Okay, let's go and find another random lap. So, I mean, what have we looked at? About 4 or 5 different ones here. Okay, so... Nah, that's fine. So, we're going to have a look at another one, are we? Right, okay. So there's a good 5-6 laps earlier. Now, there's no one around Demon R at this point, so no one to see him cut a corner. That might have been close, but it's this one I want to look at. Okay, so no one's around him. There's an opportunity there to cut a corner, and yeah, he's not cut the corner. So now for Ray was not aware fully that we were going to be looking at that kind of footage, but I'm interested to get your thoughts on what you've seen there, Ray.
It looks like somebody just had a mistake in one corner and then tried to correct it before the end of the lap. Mm-hmm. And then went and double checked it. It's not a consistency thing.
Yeah.
And it was just a one-off.
Yeah. I mean, what I kind of want to say is that, I mean, we talked a little bit about this on the race footage. That a topic that has crept up quite often this championship has been about track limits. I think we had someone mention, we had the pictures of Art Palette Red Bull Ring being on the curb before corners, and someone wanting clarification on whether that's allowed or not. And obviously we went through that whole process, and there's been different conversations about track limits. And obviously we've got the track limits rules coming in on the next championship. So the thing I find interesting about this is it's an example of someone has made a bit of an error at a corner, clearly cut it. So if I was looking, I'm trying to think, if that was you, Ray, that I'd seen cut that corner, and I was like, oh, fucking hell, he's proper cut that corner. If I was following you and I'd seen you cut the corner like I did there, I'd be thinking, hang on, that's way too much corner. Now, if I see you do it on the next lap, I'm now going to be, hang on, and the next lap, if I see you do it 3 times in a row, I'm going to be saying something. I'm going to be saying, Ray, you might want to be sticking to the track here, mate. Or, post-race, having a look at those ones that I'd seen, see if they were cut, and then potentially send it in as a report or to the G-Spot.
Yeah.
Now, from a sort of admin's perspective, what I wouldn't do, what I wouldn't want someone to do is, if I saw Ray cut a couple of corners in front of me, I may go and have a look at a few other corners to see if they've done it on other occasions, but I wouldn't be going through looking at their every lap. And one of the reasons that's something we used to do in our F1 leagues, and it's not a route we want to go down, definitely. But what?
No.
Go on.
Plus, what's the word? We had an incident when we first started up, and we kind of said,
You're on about the Iceman one?
no,
Oh, about you can only report something that you've seen. Yeah. So while you're so from I know what you're trying to say. So as a steward, for example, if we're asked by any driver to look at an incident, we can look at said incident. If while trying to find it, we happen to see something else, then we cannot steward that. What we can do is put it to the admins for a conversation to be potentially looked at if it is of such a serious nature that a conversation may need to be had to the driver by the admins. But it's not something that the stewards would say, oh, on the way to finding this incident, I've seen so-and-so do this, and we'll give them a penalty. That's not how it works. And so it works similar for the drivers in terms of if it's something you have seen post-race and you knew nothing about it during the race, then technically you can't report it. You have to have either been a direct witness to it or a direct victim of it to be able to report it. Is that what you were trying to say?
Yeah. You worded it better.
Yeah, with subtitles. So it is one of those things. So like, in our old F1 league, we used to say, feel free to go through the replays and check everybody every lap, any corner, and put in any reports. And we used to get hundreds of them. It reduced over time, but we would get lots and lots and lots and lots and lots.
Yep.
So
it was a nightmare trying to explain to the people.
Yeah.
We never gained the advantage, but you cut the corner.
Yeah, you cut the corner. Yeah, a bit like in F1 now. F1, I've got the rules kind of right now. You exceed track limits, It doesn't matter if you don't think you've gained anything. You've exceeded track limits. So you need to 100% not get. So, yeah. Now, what I would say is that when it comes to anybody that is perhaps concerned about seeing people exceed track limits, there are many variants to the situation of track limits. So one is obviously the example that we've showed here. Demon R's cut a corner, and we've looked at it as if we were a steward or an admin, as if somebody had reported Demon R. So I'm trying to think who was behind me. No, Steve F1. Right, so Steve F1. If he'd have been looking in his mirror and seen that I cut the corner and seen that I got close to him, he could, technically, if he wanted, report me after the race. Now, the way that we run things at the moment is, if you're going to report someone for exceeding track limits once, there's probably not going to be a lot happening with it, unless that exceeding track limits was done in the active time of making an overtake. So somebody has cut a corner to complete an overtake. If it was slightly before, it may be of interest. If it's after, it's not going to be of interest. Now, don't take those words as we don't give a shit. It's more of, okay, if somebody's cut a corner, is it a one-off? Are they doing it consistently? So, for example, with Demon R here, we did a 39-lap race. So if he's cut that corner once in 39 laps, we're not going to be worried about that, as long as he wasn't overtaking somebody at the point of doing it.
So what happens if it's like a couple of corners in succession.
Do you mean one
Yeah,
corner
you
following
could.
another, or successive
Yeah.
laps?
No, one corner following another corner, and the person has cut the corner where you could have a chance to defend the next corner, but because they've cut the corner,
Mhm.
you can't.
Because they're further ahead. But,
Yeah.
well, I think that would depend on the situation. I mean, one of the things that we don't want to end up with is, or how do I word this? When it comes to track limits, we've always tried to look at it as we'll be lenient with it, and educate as we go along. If people happen to do it once or twice a race, as long as they're showing trying to not do that and it not be a consistent thing, then we can acknowledge it and move on. But obviously, if somebody is doing it excessively, whether it be just not giving a crap about the exit of turn 1 at Red Bull, for example, and just running out up towards the wall every lap, then obviously that's a problem. And that's obviously the situation we had many years ago. And they said, well, that's the normal racing line. No, it's not. So
Wait till next season.
Yeah. Well, I mean but that's one of the things. One of the reasons of bringing in the track limits ruling is that it is going to tighten things up a little bit, but also, I mean, if people do happen to, okay, like for example, Demon R in that example, okay, overall he's not really gained anything. However, chances are, do that next season, penalty. And he's going to have to serve that penalty, and it's going to cost more time than he may have gained. But what it will hopefully do is make sure that he's not doing it again and again and again and again and again. Because obviously one of the things that we're in the situation of now is the only way we would know if somebody's doing it again and again and again and again is to go through watching everybody's footage. And we're not going to do that, and the drivers shouldn't do that either. We would never ask them to do that. And that's why what Ray was saying earlier is you have to be witness to it to be able to report it, witness to it or involved in it, to be able to really report it. So when it comes to the things like the track limits that we're currently using, hopefully I've been able to explain the situation. I mean, what would we say actually, Ray? What would you say to... Okay, I'm going to get crub. Okay, so let's say, for example, somebody had, not necessarily put in a report, but somebody had put in a request for Demon R's corner cut that we've just seen to be viewed on the G-Spot. What comments would you make as an admin, or, because you can't do it as a steward, as an admin, to Demon R regarding his corner cut?
I don't think that'd be... If it was that one and it's not his usual line, there's not really anything to say. If it was his racing line, then it'd be like, you need to sort out your racing line.
Okay, what if it happened 3 times out of 5 laps in a row?
3 times out of 5 laps in a row. And report or...
As in, like, okay, so as an admin, you've been asked to have a look at this on the G-Spot. And you see Demon R has cut the corner. And you do what we did with the footage where you go, okay, well, let's have a look at the lap before. And on the lap before, he's cut the corner. So you go, okay, right, he's cut the corner before. Right, let's have a look at the lap after. Right, the lap after, he didn't cut the corner. So out of those 3 laps, 2 of them he's cut. Right, so let's have a look at another one before and another one after. Right? So another one before, he doesn't cut the corner. But the other one after, he does cut the corner. So now that's 3 out of those 5 laps have been corner cuts. What would you then say to Demon R?
Probably a warning to say, look, get your... you need to watch your corner cuts Because we don't, even though the stewards are seeing it, they don't take action on it if it's...
Unless it's extremely severe. And this isn't extremely severe. To put it into context as well, if it was
if it was a 5-lap race, then 3 of them were corner cuts.
That's exactly the point I was about. If it was a 5-lap race, and 3 of them were cut, you'd be like, don't be a dick. But if it's 3 laps...
Over a long period, like a 40-minute race, and
you've
done
39 laps, 40 laps, something like that. Yeah. So 3 out of 40,
it's pretty good.
Thank you. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say it's pretty. Okay.
Pretty good at corner cutting.
Yeah. It's not bad, but it's one of those things though that, I mean, I could understand anybody thinking, well, if he's off track, he's getting advantages, blah blah blah. But this is where, I mean, we may have differences of opinion of it, but I mean, it'll be interesting to see how next season goes with the track limits situation.
Yeah, because drivers will need to remember it's not
the curb,
the curb's track limits. It's the white line.
Absolutely. And now we're going to find out if Dave the Harp listens to the G-Spot, because after the race on Thursday, we went and did a few laps in Next Championship's car at Red Bull Ring with the penalties on. And at one point, Dave the Harp said, "Fucking hell, I've just got a penalty and I wasn't even off the track." Well, I haven't. I might have to input the picture here, actually. Because
we went back and had a look.
Yeah, we went and had a look, and Dave was off. He was beyond the white line. Let's put it that way, Dave. So, just so you know, in the Next Championship, the white line is what is classed as the edge of the track. And although our rules say you can use the curb, next season you need to stay within the white lines. However, if you happen to go over the white lines, you might get a penalty. If you go over the white lines and you don't get a penalty, but you had your 2 wheels on a curb, then you'll be okay. We wouldn't penalise you. But if you were over the white line, didn't get a penalty, and weren't on a curb, then you are exceeding track limits, and you should be avoiding trying to do that. I think I've covered it all.
Good.
Okay. You like your online gaming, don't you, Raymond?
Yeah.
And what's that thing that sometimes, like on shooting games when people kill each other? What's that thing that they tend to do to each other every now and again? You know, the insult, the physical insult that they would do.
Don't know. I don't really do much shooting.
So, but you know about teabagging, yeah?
Okay.
Right. Well, obviously, it's for those that don't know, it is a gaming thing. Like you kill someone and then you go, teabag. There's a female version. It's called Flappuccino.
Come on, let's go. We've got a lot to get through.
Okay, moving on to the next one. 3, 2, 1, let's go. G6 Race 9, Con versus Art. The battle continues, but it's similar, the same as the same. Now, this is one, it hasn't been reported, but it's one I'm interested to look at. So, we've got Conrad, we've got Art Pal. We know there was a battle in in Laguna Seca recently, and there was a sort of a bit of an incident here that we're going to have a bit of a look at. Now, we don't really see a lot on the spectate view, and what I'm kind of going to do here is not talk over this footage, because I kind of need to look and see what happens and process it. So I'm going to be quiet for a moment. Yeah, that didn't last long. I'm joking. Okay. Ooh. Hmm. 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 Okay. Hmm. Yeah. Cool whip. Hmm. I wonder. Hmm. I hope no one's listening to me do this. Hmm. Interesting. Okay. So slow moving. This must be riveting for people to listen to. Okay. And what I will do in a moment, once this has finished playing, I think we will. I think we'll go through it again. We can have a chat about it a bit, and then we'll go through it again. So yeah, I think we're almost at the end of that. Oh no, we've got another camera angle. Okay. So a long clip this with quite a few slow-mos. I will go into more detail in a few moments as to why I was interested at having a look at this. Okay. It was on full lock. Wasn't a moment ago, but definitely is there. Okay. Have a little random look at the steering wheel. Okay. Okay. So I think that's. Yeah, okay, so that's the end of it there for me. So, a couple of things I want to mention while Ray's still looking at it and waiting for me to stop talking.
No.
All right, okay. So, I was going to... I looked at this out of interest anyway. Partly because I have chatted with both Conrad and Artpal recently. And what I wouldn't want to happen is for Conrad and Artpal to end up in beef. I'd much prefer them to end up in lamb. But yeah, so I was interested to look at this. And when I did look at this, I decided, right, I'm going to G-spot this. Because there are some similarities to an incident, or not an incident, but a situation between Artpal and Conrad at Laguna Seca. And that's why the title for this bit was, like, is similar the same as the same? Because although there are some similarities, I think there are also some differences. There's some very obvious differences, which I'm going to mention, Ray, and then we can sort of chat about this. So, we've said many times that no two incidents are the same, and they aren't. So some very clear and obvious differences are this corner is a double apex corner. The one at Laguna Seca wasn't. It was a single apex hairpin. That one, there's the difference that makes these two situations completely different to each other. They're at a different location. So that's another one. It's a different track. It's a different time of day. They're differences. The cars are in opposite positions. Like it's Artpal on the left, Conrad on the right. So there's another difference. There's differences in speed. There's differences of car position as to how far up alongside one car was to another. There are many differences to these two incidents. Not even incidents. These two situations. I don't know if there's any differences that you'd add in there, right? I mean, I'm only giving them as an example. So when we've said to people, no two incidents are the same, I've just highlighted like 8 differences.
Yep.
All right, yeah, go ahead.
We've got car position, so that kind of covers like cars from the apex and whatnot. The way around the corners.
Yeah.
The track space, track width space as well.
Yeah,
So,
that's true. Yeah, the width of the track. Yeah. Now there are some similarities, which I also found quite interesting. But I'm trying to think. I'm wondering whether to ask you what your opinion would be as a steward, but I don't want to do that. And the reason I don't want to do that is because I've kind of actually tried to look at this as from a steward's perspective, and I'm undecided. I'm conflicted. I would need my fellow stewards to view it in detail and us have a conversation about it. So I'm interested. What's your view, having seen that for the first time? If you want to go back and have another look at it, that's fine. But what's your perspective of it from a commentator's position?
I don't know. It looked as if Artpal kind of understeered in the first part of the first left, where the contact was made, and that seemed to where they separated. So for me, that's completely different from Laguna Seca. As a commentator.
Sorry, yeah, go on.
But, yeah, just from a commentator's perspective, I can't remember
exactly
what's said from there on that.
Well,
that was 2 races ago, but
yeah.
So, and then is it excuse me, where the 2 lines meet together, taking 2 different lines, but even at that, when contact's made. It would, to be honest, I couldn't put full blame on one of them without going through it the way
you would as a
doing a shirt. Yeah.
I mean, I've given a lot of different sort of slow-mo's camera angles here, but I couldn't do it justice without sort of going sort of full steward mode on it. But I'll tell you what I do want to do, right? I want to replay the footage while I talk about it, if we can. I know it means like doing it again, but I wanted to show it initially without us talking so that you could have a clear, unaffected view of just the footage. And it's interesting because you mentioned a couple of things, one of them being understeer. I had exactly the same thought process when I saw this. It's like, did Artpal understeer a bit in there? Because if he's understeered, that is a big difference to Laguna Seca. Laguna Seca, Connor didn't understeer. Connor hadn't turned in for the corner yet when Artpal sort of went for turning around the corner. Now, that is something that didn't get me to wonder. So let's have a look at this footage again. In 3... actually, I better check if you're ready to look at it.
Yeah,
okay, so in 3, 2, 1, let's go. So the first view here is the spectate view, where we know we don't really get to see much. Well, I'm also looking at different things here. It's like, okay, are these two, and is everybody trying to give each other room down into the hairpin? This is all fine. They're giving each other plenty of room. This is exactly what we want to see. Artpal tucks underneath, thinking switchback maybe. Shows early is going to go up the inside. Now, that then to me says, okay, if he's showing it early, it's like not an early warning sign, but it's a letting you know very early, I'm looking up the inside. So a bit like with me and you, Ray, here, earlier, I had no idea you were there, but Artpal here shows Connor right now, because he's on the left, I'm looking up the inside here. Now I wondered, okay, was there a little bit of understeer from Art Pal there? Because he doesn't seem to have made the first apex. However, I know for me personally, I don't make the first apex here. I go for the second one. So,
But is that when you're side by side with a car?
well, that's a good question. But there's another factor that comes into it as well. If Art Pal and Conrad are side by side, then Art Pal can kind of choose where he wants to position his car as long as he leaves Conrad room. Yes, that's what our rules are. So as these guys are sort of getting side by side, although we can't see it, Art Pal he's not coming in late here, he is there. So as Art Pal's going around this corner, he can kind of choose where he wants to position his car, and we'll see from this view, Conrad isn't sort of turning in to go for the corner. It does appear as if it's Art Pal coming across. So although Art Pal technically, yes, can choose where to put his car, I don't know if anything really bad has happened up to this point. Then that bit of contact happens, which may be similar to the contact that we saw at Laguna Seca. But I'm going to come back to this in a moment. So with this being the double apex left-hander, two cars side by side, the car on the inside can choose how much road they want to use as long as they leave space. So here, Art Pal, he can choose where he wants to position his car. However, if he gets understeer, that changes things. So as he's going through the corner, this is where it kind of looks like, okay, is it understeer or not? Well, look at his steering angle there. He wasn't full lock. Now he is. So I don't think it's understeer. Then as the cars merge, I think this is that contact effect like Laguna Seca, where now neither car can turn more. Because as they part, you'll see Connor's car's going to go straight on, and Art Pal's car's going to suddenly steer more left. Now, I mean, by all means disagree with me in a moment, Ray. So, as they have then parted, they're now on their new trajectories. And then if I'm in Art Pal's position and I look at the radar, I see I'm clear ahead, I'll use all the road here. So I do think there's potentially other factors, and a big part of it comes down to, in this situation, if Art Pal has understeered, then he could potentially be at fault for Conrad ending up off the track, because the reason for the contact between the two of them would be Art Pal's understeer. If Art Pal hasn't understeered, then it's possible the contact between the two of them is just them taking slightly different lines through the corner, neither of which is necessarily wrong, but then the contact between them has resulted in Conrad ending up off the road. I would then also look at it as, has Art Pal gone into the corner and exited the corner looking to give Conrad zero space? I don't think that's the situation either. So a lot of differing factors to Laguna Seca, with maybe two similarities. It's the same two drivers, and has that bit of contact between the two cars had a similar effect? Thoughts?
I thought it was in MD's corner. I don't think we have that rule. It's you give racing room, and
True, yeah.
so it's not that Art Pal had the corner.
I'm not saying that Art Pal had the corner.
You said that he had the inside. So
I said he can position his car where he wants as long as he gives room to Connor. So he doesn't necessarily have to make the apex at the first part, does he? And he doesn't necessarily have to make the apex at the second part, as long as he's giving Conrad plenty of racing room. This is where we may have a disagreement or a misinterpretation, maybe.
I know what you're saying, but me personally, I would the feeling that Art Pal should be a wee bit more
Oh, yeah, I agree.
in the apex.
Okay, not necessarily should, but could have made the apex much more. He could have been much further over to the left. However, a little bit like Connor at Laguna Seca, Connor hadn't started turning in for the corner yet, and he didn't have to. At the point that Connor chose to turn in, he's absolutely fine and entitled to. Okay, it's a little bit like okay, let's say me and you are headed up to Red Bull Rings turn 2, side by side. Now, I would hate it if I saw someone do what I'm about to explain, but let's say we're side by side. You're on the left, I'm on the right. We're heading up to the braking zone. We both hit the brakes at the same point. Now, I'm on the right, and you would expect me to turn in and take the apex. And I should. However, if I chose to be a bit naughty and continue straight on, but leaving you more than a car's width to the edge of the track, but taking a very wide line around turn 2, but making sure you always have a car's width.
You got to remember a car can't make a 90-degree turn.
True, but if I give you that car's width all the way around the corner, technically, I wouldn't have done anything wrong. Morally, it's fucking bang out of order. And if someone did it to me, I would not be happy. But technically, yeah, I would say there isn't anything against the rules there. Because although you would expect me to turn in for the apex, for the corner, as long as I've given you the racing room, then technically I can turn in as late as I want, as long as I'm in control of my car. Obviously, if I'm sliding straight on, and the reason I'm going straight on and using all the road is because I'm locked up, I'm out of control, different scenario. I'm a naughty boy, I'd be expecting to get bollocked for that. So, go on.
I know what you're saying, but I think I'm in a wee bit of disagreement.
Well, I'm only pointing it out. I mean, I would hate someone to actually do that kind of move. I genuinely, if I saw someone doing it, I would be saying, don't do that. I'm not saying that that's what this is with Art Pal and Connor. It's far to the extreme. So, just the point I was trying to get at was, although we may want Art Pal to be a bit further over to the left and a bit closer to the corner, he doesn't technically have to be. I mean, it's not like he's gone in there hot, deep, out of control, unless it is understeer. It's not like he's gone in there unable to make the corner. He may have missed the first apex and the second apex, but I don't necessarily think that would be technically wrong. If you're in control of the car, although you may not like it, I don't think that's necessarily wrong. If we disagree about it, it's fine, because we can admin chat it and we can perhaps clarify it. Because obviously, if we're in have a different perspective of it, then it's obvious that the drivers could have a different perspective of it, and that's why I think this is a good thing if we do disagree, because if we disagree, then we can understand why drivers may disagree. So someone may think that what Art Pal did was fine. Some may think that what Art Pal did wasn't fine. Some may not see the difference between this and Laguna Seca, or this and an incident 10 years ago.
I'm not saying it's fine, and I'm not saying it's not fine. I think there could have been maybe a wee bit better done to avoid, from both parties, the contact.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with it. I think the contact could have been avoided, but at the same time, I don't think I could put any blame on anybody for the contact. I'm very conflicted.
For myself, I can.
It's not an easy one, is it? And this,
No,
And this is the thing, people would look at something like this and think it's dead easy, it's a slam dunk, but it really isn't.
Edging more towards Art Pal could have done a wee bit more, but then that's where when we get as stewards, like this one would take forever.
It would.
Like we would be in arguments. We'd be.
Well, we would definitely be in discussion, but I mean, this thing.
Well, not arguments. It's just a bit. I'm saying it like.
Yeah. You have to argue your case.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because obviously we'd be like, okay, Ray, why do you disagree? And we would battle it out to the finer details and the wording, which can be frustrating at times, but so that we get the views of all of us fully understood. Because as you can tell, I'm not always the best with words, and Ray ain't either. And we will pick up on if somebody uses the wrong word, the wrong terminology. We do have to pick up on that. So, like you picked up on me saying, you said, well, I didn't think we had It's Art Pal's Corner in the rules. Okay, that's how you have perceived my comment. It's not what I said or what I meant, but okay, that's what you perceive, so let's deal with that. 100% in the DGT rules, there is no such thing as It's My Corner. It doesn't exist. So anybody that may want to use that argument at any point, it doesn't exist, it's not an argument. Because the DGT rule is give space at all times. Now, there are subcategories to that where differing circumstances can affect it, but there is no such thing as It's My Corner. But that's where me trying to explain my view on where I think Art Pal may or may not be able to position his car, the terminology I've used is definitely something that you disagreed with, or even disagree with where he can or can't put his car, and that would have to be discussed. I mean, it's definitely not a straightforward one. I mean, we've talked about this for 20 minutes. I still don't know what the fuck to think of it. But I think what I would say is that for perhaps Connor and Art Pal is do what we've done with some of the others. Just give each other a wide berth. If you see it's like for Art Pal, if you see it's Connor, just go, okay, I'll just give you an extra bit of room. And Connor, if you see it's Art Pal, just do the same. Just give you an extra bit of room. And what you'll find happens is we end up with better racing. And we don't have to look at things like this and go, I don't know what the fuck to do. Right, should we move on?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I mean, hopefully one of the things that we've shown there is that sometimes what you think is a very, very simple situation isn't. Because, well, I know I said we move on, but for me, that whole situation there fully depends on my opinion of whether I think Art Pal has understeered or not. And if I can't prove that Art Pal hasn't understeered, and you can't prove that Art Pal has understeered, how could we make a decision on it? Maybe what we would have to say in something like that is, you know what, it's a very difficult one for us to make a decision on, but maybe what should have happened, maybe that's one of those where maybe Art Pal could have said, okay, it might not be completely my fault, but we have made contact and you have ended up off the track, so maybe I should wait for you. Maybe that's what Art Pal felt about Laguna Seca. I don't know. We've had it on an occasion now and again, haven't we, where we've said, okay, something's happened, it's not really worthy of a penalty, but yeah, it would have been nice if they'd have waited for him. But it's not really something we could give a penalty for. I'm not saying that's what this is, but it is something we've done before. Right, should we move on?
Yeah.
Right, two windmills are in a field. One windmill says to the other, what type of music do you like? And the other one says, well, I'm a big metal fan.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't worry, there is still more. Right, let's move on to the next one. In 3, 2, 1, let's go. G7, race 9, out of fuel or out of laps, slowing before the line. Now, we didn't really see this too closely on the race footage, but we were looking at Dave the Harp and whether he got the extra lap or not, and we saw that he didn't. And on the race footage, we, like this view, we don't really see anything other than Connor spinning in the background. However, there is a situation that occurs here, which has been requested for us to have a look at on the G-Spot, and I think rightfully so as well. So we're looking at Dave the Harp. This is what results in being the final lap of the race. Dave approaching the line and slows down just before the line and crosses it without getting the extra lap. So Art Pal following, who is full throttle, and we'll see Dave goes on the brakes just before the line, and there's a bit of contact, and across the line they go. Now, there's a couple of... Actually, you know what? I want to pause the video there, Ray, right? Just as Dave the Harper's stopped. As I've paused him, we might have to go back to the start. There's a couple of things that I think we need to sort of point out here is, before we go ahead into this conversation, is I do want to say that no one should be hitting the brakes on a straight where normally you'd be flat out, whether it's to avoid making the extra lap or not. It's not something that someone should do. What's your view on that, Ray?
Yeah, I don't think you should be doing it, especially on the racing line.
Yeah, interesting you say that. Go on.
If you know you're not going to get to or don't want to do the next lap because you're going to run out of fuel or whatnot, get off the racing line and let the ones that, because I don't know the timing. We've not went into detail at the moment with the timing of Art Pal would have got.
Yeah, we'll get into that. But no, I think you're absolutely right. This is one of those situations where, okay, if I put myself in Dave the Harp's shoes, my feet will hurt because his feet are tiny compared to mine. Approaching the line, I can understand he may not have the fuel to do an extra lap, doesn't want an extra lap. But if he is going to slow down before the line, the way to do it is to move out away from the racing line. So for me, the racing line here would be either one of these two lanes on the right-hand side. So if he moves over to the lane to the left, or even the lane to the left of that, and slows down before the line, if somebody was to then hit him, Dave would have be able to say, well, I wasn't on the racing line, I moved over. Now someone may say, well, you could have told us. He doesn't have to, right? If he was out of fuel and this situation occurs, he's driving along, he's out of fuel, his car slows down, there's no discussion. That shit happens, and that's what I thought had happened at the time. But what Dave does do is stays on what I would class as the racing line and does hit the brakes before the finish line. That for me is a no-no. Now, we will go on to talk about a few other factors too in this, but I do want to emphasise that this is something I don't think anybody should be doing. Or if you are going to do it, you should be off the racing line, because then if somebody does hit you, at least you can then say, well, look, I've opted to slow down in what would be deemed as a safe location. It's not a brake check. I mean, that's something I do want to state. This isn't a brake check, because a brake check is when you hit the brakes on a straight to fuck up the person behind you. That's not what Dave's doing here. Dave's hit the brakes to not get the extra lap. Now, in hindsight, if Dave would have crossed the line, he may have actually finished in a higher position than 5th. What he wouldn't have done is finished lower than 5th, unless Art Pal crossed the line. Now, if we take this footage right back to the start of the footage, then we can have a real good bash at it. But yeah, if anything you want to add there, feel free, go for it. Give us your opinion.
I'll rewatch.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in agreement off the racing line if you're going to hit the brakes for not wanting to do another lap because you've got the fuel for it.
Absolutely. I mean, just to highlight as well, this is the point where Hayes actually parked up at the side of the road because he doesn't want to do the extra laps. He's so far off the side of the road that you don't even see him. So although he's doing something we wouldn't necessarily want someone to do, he's actually doing it in the safest way possible, way off the track. Okay, so we're going to replay the footage then in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. So, as we see, spectator view, blah, blah, blah. Now, we are going to come on to some other parts of this. However, all of it is kind of irrelevant because it is a situation where Dave, don't do this, and for everybody else, don't do this. But if you are going to do it safely off the racing line. So as but we are going to look at this in detail so people can see. So Dave's heading up towards the line and he does lift off the throttle a little bit. There's a little hover there and another hover. Now he's on the brakes. So that's obviously a situation that we wouldn't want to see. So we are going to go through this in a bit more slow motion in a minute. So Art Pal is closing in, similar speed. Now he's at much higher speed. And then Dave slows down and Art Pal tries to avoid him, but there's nothing he can do. But what we're going to look at here is the speed. Okay, we're going to look at the speed and the point of position on the track. So 149 mile an hour, Dave the Harp is off throttle and just about to start hitting the brakes. Art Pal's at 171. So 20 mile an hour difference. So as we move forward a couple of frames, Dave's still at 148, but now he's coming on the brakes. Now he's at 134. Now he's at 129. He's fully on the brakes. Bear in mind as well, he's not crossed the line yet. 125. Look up at the left-hand side for when the flag appears. 122, 121, 120. When's the flag appear? So he's still not... Oh, hello, Art Pal. Art Pal's appeared. Right. Hang on. Dave's now doing 146 mile an hour. Now the flag has appeared. And Dave's doing 146 miles. He was doing 120 a moment ago. Well, the reason he's doing 146 is because he's been bumped. Now, Dave got down to 120 mile an hour. So Art Pal here, as we saw, and we will see, is at 170. 172. It will go up to 173. Dave's at 150 at that point, so similar to what we saw earlier. So there's about 22, 23 mile an hour difference, which is massive. Art Pal's at 172. It does get to once. He's now trying to react. He's at 173 at the point that Dave's at like 128 or 120. Now, yes, there's a gap between the cars here, but that gap is going to disappear rapidly. 173 mile an hour Art Pal is still at. Now, as I mentioned, this gap is going to get close, but let's not forget as well, Dave the Harp has not technically crossed the line yet. We'll get to that in a moment. So I'm just showing that, okay, Art Pal has not quite made contact yet. It's coming now. So this is the point of contact, and Dave the Harp has not crossed the line yet. The flag isn't there. So I think you could definitely say there's a bit of contact between the two cars. So how many clicks then is it until Dave the Harp is across the line? Well, we'll find out. That was one. And Art Pal is penetrating Dave. But look at where Dave's car's positioned. Not crossed the line yet. Now Dave has crossed the line. He's got the flag. Art Pal is definitely inspecting Dave's rear end. So where Dave's car's positioned, he's finished the race. Where Art Pal's car's positioned, he hadn't finished the race at that point. But we're not finished. So, as we look into this, I've just seen Hay was parked on the yellow bit as well. I can't fucking see him. So as we look at this again in slow motion, so we know about the speed. That speed, 173 compared to what ends up being 120. At the point of contact, which is coming up now, it's when Art Pal's speed goes from 173 to 145. That's the point of contact. 30 mile an hour difference. Dave the Harp, one frame later, crosses the line How many frames until Art Pal crosses the line? Bear in mind, Art Pal speed is now down to
thought it was
145.
How many frames for Dave the Harp? 3?
No, 2. Sorry, it's
It was
one.
three.
From the point of contact, it's 1 frame for Dave the Harp. It's 2 or 3, I think, for Art Pal. It's actually playing through here. So now it's actually showing Art Pal in 5th and Dave the Harp in 6th. However, there's a reason for that. Art Pal has finished behind Dave, but they're kind of blended together. So I can understand why it's kind of showing 5th and 6th. So yeah. Now, Art Pal, there's a few things to this.
I reckon
Go on.
without that contact, well, there could have been a chance that Art Pal might have got the extra lap.
It's
But
hard to tell, but I can't disagree with you.
it's hard to tell, and
I mean, I think your reaction summed it up, though, when it was like, okay, Dave the Harper's now doing 145 and Art Pal's doing 172. That's a massive speed difference. Then when Dave's doing 120 and Art Pal's doing 170, that's 52 mile an hour difference.
you have no reaction time to get out the way.
Absolutely. And then your reaction to that, the point of contact, and Art Pal's speed goes from 173 to 145. It's an instant smashing off of 30 odd mile an hour. And like I said, it is only 1 frame
You
later.
checked in on him?
Have I what? Checked in on him.
Hey,
He's already concussed from skiing, so don't worry about it. So the point of contact, it is 1 frame later that Dave has gets the checkered flag. Now that 1 frame, to put it into perspective, is 0.001 of a second. So it's nothing. It is literally fucking nothing. It's a fraction. Obviously, that's why it's point something.
But my question to you would be, with that impact, is that what
Puts
it's
Dave
made-
over the line. Could Art
puts Dave over the line within that 1 frame, where if he was off track, would Art Pal got past,
Wow.
and it would have been more frames?
Well, this is the
before
thing.
Dave got over the
It's
line. I know
maybe.
it's-
I don't disagree with it. I know last night I did disagree with you, but I'm not disagreeing
Yeah,
with you.
I said I was going to have a crate of beer for her.
Yeah. I mean,
now,
it's
I don't think I need to.
well. To be fair, I mean, I have looked at this in quite a lot of detail while I was recording it, which is why I wasn't really looking much at. It sounds bad. I wasn't fully taking on board everything that's happened. I've already gone through it a few times, but it is one of those where the contact between Art Pal and Dave does happen before Dave has crossed the line, and that contact shouldn't happen. As I've said, if Dave had ran out of fuel and that had happened, no problem. Fair enough, no problem. Shit happens. However, because he's on the brakes, no, don't do that. Don't do that. But if you are going to do it off the racing line. So whatever discussion comes after that point, although interesting, is irrelevant. So if anyone was to argue, well, Art Pal wouldn't have made the line anyway. It's not the point. He might have made the line, we don't know. But what shouldn't have happened is Dave shouldn't have hit the brakes there. Naughty boy, David. So all of the conversation, although isn't necessarily mute, it is irrelevant, if you know what I mean, because that shouldn't have happened. Now,
Just a
go on.
commentator thing. Like the admin thing would have been a long conversation.
Yeah. But I mean, it is one of those. I mean, obviously, I've gone through it frame by frame as well, and it is 1 frame from the contact between Art Pal and Dave, to Dave getting the checkered flag, and I think it's them 2 or 3 frames later that Art Pal gets the checkered flag. But
I thought it was 3 frames today.
no. The contact between Art Pal, like the Art Pal's doing 173 mile an hour. On the next frame, he's doing 145. That's the contact. On the next frame, Dave the Harper's got the checkered flag. 3 frames later, Art Pal gets the checkered flag. But that's where I'd have to sort of question, well, if Art Pal's speed has been reduced by 30 odd mile an hour, that could have been those 3 frames.
Yeah.
So Art Pal may have got the extra lap. He might not have done, but he might have done. It's kind of Schrodinger's cat. If you know, you know. And if you were to look at it in a bit more detail, you then go, well, you know what? If he had got the extra lap, he had the fuel. He might have actually got more positions because Steve F1 was low on fuel. Demon R ran out of fuel. Demon R and SRI had. There's other permutations that could have come from it. And that's why in a situation like this, we'd go, David, don't be a naughty boy. Don't do that. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to add to that really. So yeah, I think the commentators turned me. Don't be knobhead.
I don't think there's anything else.
Yeah,
I can add to it. We could speculate, but there's nothing else really substantial could add to don't break on a racing line.
There is one thing we can add. What would your thought have been if you'd have been in Art Pal's position there?
I'd have been pissed off.
I'm thinking I might have been. If I thought he'd ran out of fuel, I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't give a shit. But I think if I'd have seen that it was on the brakes, I might be a bit like, yeah, I'd be a bit pissed, I think.
I'd be cussing and swearing.
Well, yeah, I mean, what the fuck are you doing? Braking on the fucking on the racing line. But this is where, like we're saying, yeah, if you go off the racing line, and that's not to say that you can go off the racing line and brake check someone. You can't. Brake check is brake. This is different. But yeah, again, if he put his car in a position in a safer position and done what he'd done, then okay, you could go. If I went slipstreaming and hit him up the arse, then afterwards I might be pissed, but at least I'll be able to go, well, he did at least move. He moved off the racing line. So even though he didn't verbally tell me anything, because he doesn't have to, although it might have been nice to, he doesn't have to. I mean, I didn't tell Steve F1 I was running out of fuel. I didn't tell Ray I was running out of fuel. No way was I even fucking moved off the racing line in the hope that Steve F1 would hit me over the line and I'd finish ahead of him. I'm not going to tell him that I'm out of fuel.
You never said you were out of fuel until I was side by side slowing down with you. You're like, oh no,
absolutely.
I'm out of fuel. And I was like, shit, I could have waited, but then I would have realised you were going so slow that I would have just put the foot down.
Absolutely. Right, should we move on to the next one then?
Yeah.
This is the longest ever. Fucking hell. Right. Good job, it's fucking end of season. Right, next one in 3, 2, 1, let's go. G8, race 9. A rich pain in the ass. Right. I want to say, first of all, hello, Connor. I couldn't have timed that better. I want to say, at the end of the race footage the other day, I said, I am proud of how the drivers have improved their racing. And that's why I'm showing this particular clip here. Although we're on board me, it's not about me. It's about the car in front. Who, okay, yes, was a rich pain in the arse. But I want to praise Rich on his racing here, his positioning of his car. He is defending perfectly, positioning his car in just the right places to stop me attacking, to stop me from making a move. Even this down here, little cheeky, But nothing wrong with it. Okay, there's a little bit of contact there, but not a problem because we deal with it. But he doesn't just give up. He has a look at the switchback, it's not on. He has a look up the inside, but it's not on. He's got me looking in the mirrors. He's hit his apex nicely there. So now, for me, I might be thinking, right, Rich, you fucking leave me alone. But Rich isn't thinking that. And as much as I might want Rich to leave me alone, I also want him to do this. Now, I don't defend this corner, but that's because I know the fastest line is the high, wide line. Rich is going for the inside, no problem. You do the inside line, Rich, but you better get it slowed down. And all right, you couldn't, you did. You got it slowed down, you made the move. You even defended the exit and put me in a position where I couldn't re-attack you. I couldn't undercut or switch back him. I had a look here. I couldn't go for that move. It's not really on. Could I go for it at the hairpin? Maybe, but is Rich aware? He's aware. He doesn't need to defend fully, but he's positioned his car in just enough of an awkward position that I couldn't go around the outside of him or do a switchback. And again, into these corners, he's positioning his car very, very nicely. I can't just drive past him. I can't drive through him either, as much as I might want to. So now I'm thinking, okay, you're going to defend down into this first corner. I've also got to be careful of Conrad, who's closing in behind. Now I'm thinking, okay, have I got the speed to catch Rich and attack him? Okay, I'm going to attack him. Is he going to defend? If he defends, I'm going all the way around the outside. He's not defending. He's not defending. Okay, I'll go up the inside. He's not defended, but he went quick on the way in, had a bit of a wobble, was unfortunate. If he hadn't have had the wobble, he may have been able to hold it round the outside. But does Rich give up? No, he doesn't. He doesn't. But he does realise he's now got Conrad behind him. So what's Conrad going to do? Or should I say, what's Rich going to do? Is he going to give up the fight? No, not at all. He lets Connor have a look up the inside, realises he's there maybe a little late, but gives him the room. They work it out. Now the side-by-side into the final couple of corners. Now this is the line that I think you would have wanted Art Pal to take on the clip earlier. I can understand that. But Rich with a nice little overtake on Connor. So now Connor realises, okay, this isn't going to be an easy overtake. Demon R's fucked off up the road. It may look like Rich was weaving there. He wasn't. It's just that can happen with the camber of the road. So is Rich going to defend, or is he going to take that high line? Well, he had a wobble. But is it going to deter him? A little bit. He takes a slightly earlier line in, but it meant he's had to be a little slower in the middle of the corner. No problem with that. He's held on to the position. Connor can't attack here. He's too close. He hasn't got the space. Can he have a look up the inside to the right here? No, because Rich has positioned his car sort of middle of the roadish. He's compromised his speed, but he's defending his position. He shows early he's going to defend, but actually positions his car in the middle of the road and covers off the switchback nearly completely. Connor gets a little bit out of shape. Dave the Arm says thank you very much. Rich now thinks, fucking, I got Dave to fend off. Right? Dave will be thinking, well, I don't know what Dave's thinking, but he'll be thinking, let me through. Now, this clip's going to end soon, but it's going to end on a moment of topic of discussion. Of interest, I think, because I think Rich has just done 2 fantastic laps there, really. Dave's now closing in. Is Rich going to go for that high line? He is. He doesn't wobble this time. There's a little bit of contact between the two, and then Rich actually slows down and lets Dave through. Now, that for me was quite interesting, and we are going to kind of have a look at this, because I don't know if this was the one where there was a chat between Dave and Rich, but I looked at this and thought, okay, it's a bit of contact there. There's not really a lot in that.
No.
And I think Rich could have kept going.
Yep.
If Rich had have gone for, like, tried to go all the way over to the apex, then okay, fair enough. But I think that was just such a tiny bit of contact that, like I said, I don't know if that is the one, but I do know that during the race at some point, I do know Dave mentioned to Rich that I think he thought Rich had turned in on him. If it was that one, I think in hindsight, looking at it, yeah, okay, Rich has sort of maybe come more towards Dave than Dave has gone towards Rich. But in that corner, that amount of contact, if I was in Dave's position, I wouldn't be bothered with that. It wouldn't affect me in that way. I wouldn't be worried about it because I would be aware that a little bit of contact could happen there. And I do think on that one, Rich could perhaps have kept going. But I do want to say, Rich, a couple of years ago, you wouldn't have been driving like that. The fact that
you'd have been letting people through when he didn't need to, but his racecraft has came on tremendously.
Yeah. So when he wipes someone out in the first race next season, we can bash him hard, but no.
Was it him or his wife who were talking? I said, he's like all the gear but no idea. He's got an idea now. He's switched up his racecraft, and he gives, even when I'm side by side with him or racing him, I still get a hard time with him.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't. He's not bowing over to anybody.
Absolutely.
Anymore.
Yeah.
He's in it.
Yeah.
And that's what I like. He's took his time to get to there. Maybe it was a confidence thing, but that just shows you how confident he's became within the league.
Absolutely. And also without being able to practice, he doesn't get on for the Monday practice. He's not able to. I mean, whether he does secret practice or not, I don't know. But yeah, for me, that there was the sign. That was the kind of thing that when I was racing round, thinking, will you just fuck off? But actually, I'm really proud of you. Well done. Keep going. Now, fuck off. But it is one of those situations where it's like, okay, for my own personal race, not that he's affecting it, but I may be not getting where I want to be. But I hold nothing against Rich for it. I want him to do those kind of things. And the fact that he was confident enough, like you said, confident enough to go for the move into turn one on me. Fair play. Absolutely. And anybody should feel like they can do that against anybody in the league, as long as it's done fairly, that's fine. But even when he tried defending the outside to turn one and he had the wobble, without that wobble, I think he holds the position. He had the wobble. The next lap, he positions his car slightly more inside so he doesn't get the wobble. But he then has the confidence the lap after to take that higher line again. And that's something that I do. I just want to praise Rich for that driving. Well done, and keep it up. And if you ever do win a race, I'll buy you a t-shirt. Although I've said that, if anybody else wins a race, they might want a t-shirt now as well. Anything to add to that, Ray?
No, that's just fantastic.
Yeah.
That's what we like to see.
See, the
the
G-Spot isn't always about bad things, is it?
Nope.
Okay, shall we move on to the next one then?
Yeah, because I need a piss.
I'm done about you. I'm fucking knackered. Okay, the next one. When you fart in a crowded room, you should say, do I smell popcorn? And then everyone will take a sniff. Okay, next one in 3, 2, 1, let's go. Gee whiz, where is that G-Spot? G-Spot, I'm coming to find you. Where are you? Hello, Gary.
That's actual Discord's G-Spot first thing.
That's the thing I laughed at about 5 G-Spots ago that I'd not actually seen before. So yeah, it is good that.
I put that there on this 25th of the 2nd, 2022. And over a year ago?
Yeah, I only saw it about 6 weeks ago, yeah. But I figured it's a good way to end this championship and this G.
Yep.
But now, a couple of things I will say. I hope nobody takes any offence to anything that we've ever said or done. So yeah, have fun. Thank you, everybody.
That's our road. opinions as commentators. It's
Yeah.
stewarding's much harder work, and a lot goes through.
Absolutely. Right. Thank you, Ray, for joining us on the G.
Yep.
And I'm now going to
I'm gonna go for
jump into a
lunch.
hole.
It's 11 o'clock, Jesus Christ.
I know. Fuck,
We've been here fucking
since 8,
quarter
9,
past.
10. 3 hours. 3 hours to do commentary and the G-Spot. See, if people and just think that's 3 hours we could have done practicing.
15 minutes off.
Right.
What do you mean practicing? It's 2 weeks off.
Well, yeah, true. Right, thank you, everybody. You know what to do, like, subscribe, notifications, blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm sure we'll be back in a few weeks' time with a G-Spot. And if there's anything in the meantime you want us to have a look at, what do they need to do, Ray?
Send it to the page.
Send it to the page. Have a good night, everyone. See you later.